All right, welcome to our Go Live session here. We have a few people who also came to our buyer seller seminar, and what it is we have a lot of questions that are asked to us about it's just every day we get the same questions posed, and we figured why don't we just get online here and give everybody a chance to hear the answers to their questions, because if you're out there looking to buy or sell a home, you know this is going to be monumental or really informative for you to get that knowledge you need before you start going out buying or selling a home. I'm going to introduce Anthony Zappia from he's our home inspector. He's from All County Home Inspections. And then to my left is Chuck Hawthorne from Bond Street Mortgages. These are my preferred lenders and my preferred home inspector. I know we've gone live before, but we're going to get on live here and give you guys some answers. We have some questions we took earlier from some folks who wrote in, some people who are here as well. And we're going to go over those questions. We figured it was better than to try to reach out into the audience and grab people's questions as we go. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to start with some mortgage questions for Chuck over here. And hopefully this is the same kind of questions you guys have. If you have questions while you're watching this video, please write in and ask us the questions. We have other people working the cameras, so they'll tell us what the questions were as they come in, and we'll address them. So this will be your opportunity. We'll probably go for about 30 minutes, and then we'll call it quits. This is brought to you by the Benino Home Group, Benino Real Estate Group. You can search homes at thebeninogroup.com. Or you can reach out to us here on Facebook anytime, send a message over, or give us any of our realtors a call, and we'll take care of it. Home buying or selling needs that you have. All right, so I'm going to start mortgage questions. So Chuck, what are today's interest rates? How have they changed? Where do you think they're going?
Yeah, so today their conventional loan is about 4.25%, I would say, and FHA's typically around a quarter lower. I'd say about 4%. When I looked at this morning in preparing, I think it's a reasonable rate to say 4% on FHA loan and 4.25% on a conventional loan. The Feds are talking about raising the rates in 2 weeks. Two of the last 3 times they said that, and they actually raised the rate. Our interest rates for a lending standpoint went down a tick, which I can't really figure that out. So it doesn't really shake us up too much when we hear they're coming up. Eventually they will. We know that, and we're hearing things that they're going to come up numerous times throughout the year. But at the end of the day, 4% and rates in the low 4s or in the 4s, that's great.
Yeah,
I think that's a phenomenal rate. In the grand scheme of things, rates were double digits. A while. If you look at a history of interest rates, and this is really low. These are good times.
If you just so you know, if you do get pre-approved at a certain point with Chuck, he'll give you a pre-approval, but mortgage rates do fluctuate. They can be higher at the end of the year. So if you're looking to buy something, don't hesitate on at least calling and get some information so you know. But don't be surprised if later on that if you got a rate at 4.25% now, it may be 5% later on in the year, and that's what we're looking at as well. All right. What's the difference between an FHA loan and a conventional loan?
Okay, so they both have first-time home buyer programs, which is good. The conventionals rolled out some new things that are great. The FHA is going to be more flexible from a credit standpoint. If your credit's lacking, they're going to be able to be a little more flexible than a conventional loan. Okay, from an income standpoint, they're going to be able to be a little more aggressive. They'll lend you more than a conventional loan, even though conventional lines have rolled out a couple programs that are more aggressive, that they'll be able to push a little further. But at the end of the day, the FHA is going to be more aggressive in terms of going a little bit further for your first-time home buyer. The big difference between the two, and I do want to go back real quick from a credit standpoint. Conventionally, you get a conventional loan with a 620 score. You don't have to be perfect to be a conventional loan. We're getting a lot of people into conventional that worked before FHA. And the reason why we'd want to do that is because of the PMI or mortgage insurance. If you do not have 20% to put down, which most people don't, but eventually you will have 20% equity in the house. With an FHA loan, the PMI never comes off for the life of the loan. With a conventional loan, you may be able to get the PMI off. And what that is, mortgage insurance or PMI, private mortgage insurance, it is a premium that's added on to your payment every month to protect the bank if something were to happen to you and you were to fall into foreclosure. If, again, with the FHA, that extra premium, which could be a couple $100, is on your loan for the life of the loan, where conventional, once you have 20% equity, it's likely to come off. I've done it myself and gotten the PMI off on a conventional loan.
Okay.
So that's the big difference, is that PMI, and that's why we try to get them into a conventional loan if we could.
Chuck, how many years you got in the business?
I would say about 14.
So 14 years, you're not dealing with an amateur guy here, you're dealing with a, what do you guys, AAA star rated?
Yeah, Bond Street Mortgage, you look us up on our site, we have really no negative ratings at all. We're doing things the right way, and it starts with the pre-approval process, and the process of handling people throughout the process, keeping them posted, dealing with the same person, giving them a good experience. So that's how you get the good rating.
Now we use them because, not because there's 1,000 mortgage brokers, we use them because of the customer service, the relations that we have with them, the relationships they have with our clients, and everything reflects back on us and who we use, and they've done a great job and they've closed a lot of loans for being a real estate group over the past few years. Now here's a good question, because people always ask me this, because they'll send me a pre-approval letter and it'll say, well, I got this pre-approval letter from Wells Fargo or TD Bank, and it's just not enough for me to buy a home. What am I supposed to do? And I say, hold on a second. They do conservative lending. We'll let Chuck explain to you briefly why using a mortgage broker is better than using a bank. So go ahead.
So your local bank where you get your checking and savings, a lot of people will go there first to get pre-approved. And that's fine, but your bank's going to follow Fannie Mae guidelines, okay? And then they're going to have their overlays on top of those guidelines. Not every bank is the same. What we do is we are the bank, we are a direct lender, we are funding our own loans. We're all getting our money from the same place at the end of the day. Interest rate's not an issue. But we just do not service our loans. We're not interested in servicing our loans. So we will sell the loan after closing within a couple weeks on the secondary market. What that does for you, the buyer, is I have 15 different banks that I deal with on a daily basis. Every buyer is different. So I'm going to be able to take your unique needs and place you with the right lender that's going to be most aggressive at the end of the day. So we're funding the loan, but we will sell the loan very, very shortly after closing. And so I'm going to be able to be extremely competitive from an interest rate perspective, but not every bank's the same. So I'm going to be able to take your needs, place you with the most aggressive lender, which is going to be sure to get you the lowest rate and the best program.
So basically what happens is people get pre-approved. They add on so many layers of protection, the bank does, that they do conservative lending,
Right.
where they can be less conservative and get you a higher number if you need to get there. People generally seem to start it, if they're shopping for between 3 and 4, they usually start at 3, and by the time we start looking at houses, they're up more closer to 4. So if you need that extra lending, and really the price on a home, depending on what you're putting down, between 3 and 4 in a monthly mortgage payment, may not be that much. It could be something very, very simple, and people don't understand. I think it's such a dramatic price difference, but it's not.
They don't have to be aggressive, like a Wells Fargo, Chase. They don't need that one loan, so that there's no need for them to stretch. Whether you have your checker or savings there, it means nothing to them. So there are some other banks that are looking to be aggressive. They want that business if other things fit into place. So definitely it's worth speaking to a couple different lenders, but a place like mine, or Bond Street, is a boutique lender. They have a lot of different options. That's where you want to go, because you're going to be able to have a lot of different options, and a service standpoint is going to be second to none. A lot of times with the bank too, they're going to give you a pre-approval just based on a conversation with you. That's a pre-qualification. You need to check the tax returns, you need to check the bank statements, and make sure, one, that you're walking around with a qualified buyer, but they actually, to be sure they're actually qualified for what the bank actually said.
We've actually had people who have brought qualification letters to us and not gone through Bond Street Mortgages, and then we've called their lenders and said, hey, I see you sent a letter over the pre-approved for $400,000. Have you gotten any documents? And they'll say no. I said, well, how could you issue a letter without getting any documents? What Bond Street will do is they'll take a look at your documents. We'll need that stuff, because you know what? You can't beat the system. You can beat the system up front and get that piece of paper and start shopping for houses, but the minute you find a house and you need a house, you want to know that, hey, we already submitted all our records, all our documents, all our paperwork, and we're ready to buy. You don't want to walk in and get a 5-minute pre-approval, or go online and get a 5-minute pre-approval, and then walk out just a piece of paper. That's all it is. And what's going to happen is it's going to fall apart halfway through. You're not going to win the race. You're not going to beat it out. You have to play this game smart. Don't waste your time coming out looking at houses unless you are you have been pre-qualified correctly.
Right. So how do you know what you're looking for if you don't know what it's going to cost? Get pre-approved first. Everybody wants to look at the house first. It's not as, getting the mortgage isn't as, they don't want to. They tend to be hesitant. But get pre-approved, do the math. Let's find out what exactly you qualify for. And yes, we want to find out what the maximum is, but we want to find out really what is your comfort zone. What are you comfortable paying? Because this is a 30-year commitment. You want to make sure that this loan amount and this tax bracket is going to be in your comfort zone, and we'll be able to fine-tune that and really fine tune your search. And that right house tends to pop out once you get pre-approved.
Guys, also know this, and I've said this before, know that when you look at the price of a house, guys, people are always like, well, we're looking 3 to 4. Well, I say don't look 3 to 4, look at the whole picture, all right? So if Chuck is giving you a number, basically what they're going to do is going to give you a number of monthly what they're going to allow you to borrow, what the lenders are going to allow you to borrow. But those variables could change on a price of a house and the taxes, okay? So you may have a house that's $400,000 and taxes maybe $10,000, and you go, well, that's our max. But you have a house that's $500,000 and your taxes are $5,000. And then it's going to be the same monthly mortgage payment. So don't focus primarily on the whole number. You must take into account taxes on a property. I can't tell you how many times people have gone, oh, I didn't see this one. I go, I know. We found it for you. You're not looking where you need to be looking. So that's why we always, when we get people set up on auto emails and have properties being sent to you on a daily basis through all the MLSs, we bring you up 50,000 or 100,000 outside your comfort zone, not to try to pump up the value of the price, is because you're missing out on things you didn't see that were higher. I'd rather be paying more for a house, or the same price, and get more house than paying more taxes. It kind of just makes sense. It just depends what your feelings are on things. So how do they get pre-approved?
Okay, so it starts with a conversation. You know, I like to speak to have a good 10, 15-minute conversation, educate them on what's the difference between conventional as opposed to an FHA loan. Find out, you know, how much they're looking to put down. What do they have in savings for the transaction? And kind of get an idea of which way they're going, whether it's going to be a conventional or FHA deal. And then eventually take the application, run the numbers, and then have another conversation, kind of dot the I's and cross the T's, and then make a game plan with them. So really start with a conversation. You get pre-qualified within minutes. You know, the application takes about 8 minutes to fill out. I could do it over the phone if they like. I like for them to do it from a secure link, so their information's safe. I could run the numbers within 10 minutes and have you pre-qualified. The next step is to get the checklist. I send a secure link to make sure, to get them pre-approved. Get your documents in. I scrub everything just as well as an underwriter could have been doing for a long time. And I can see if there's going to be any potential issues, any delays. And we'll address them now, so the actual process of going through when you do find a house is going to be stress-free.
Let me just jump in there and say, look, if you're thinking about buying a house in the next year, you don't know you're not following your credit correctly, you think there's some things that you need to fix, now is the time to get in touch with Chuck Hawthorne, let him take a look at it and go, hey, look, over the next 6 months, you're going to have to straighten this out, and we'll be ready to buy in September. Okay, you don't want to wait till September, go, we're ready for a house, and he goes, well, you know, we need 6 months now or 3 months to fix all the stuff that you guys didn't fix before. So you need to know that it's never too early to just reach out, ask some questions, get yourself prepared, and start doing your homework. I mean, you got to do some recon on the areas that you're looking at and what you're looking to spend. You have to know and get informed of the market. All right, so give your phone number, Chuck.
201-390-9565.
Have an email address.
Chuck@bstloans.com. That's B as in boy, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, loans.com.
Or if you need his information, reach out to us. I'm going to shift over to Anthony for a little bit and ask him some questions. And people, again, we're doing this because people always ask these questions. We want to reach a large market where people can understand. There's people who have these questions about, why do I need this? What's the next process in this? What should I do? So, yeah, I mean, just the easy one. Why should you have a home inspection?
Well, there's a lot of good reasons why you should have a home inspection. One of the more general reasons is because you need to know what you're buying before you buy it. And we put together a very easy to read report so that we can address these issues prior to your purchase.
When we tell you something, when I'm telling you as your realtor, hey man, you need a home inspection, or hey, this is what needs to be done, I would do that. I actually have 2 loans that I process with Bond Street Mortgage. I'm a man who practices what I preach, all right? Anthony done inspections for me at my other houses that I own as well. So when I tell you you need a home inspection, and here's the guy to use, and then you call your cousin Vinny's friend who does one home inspection and writes it on carbon paper, you're going to get a professional laid out thing, easy to read from a guy who really knows his stuff. He doesn't do home inspections, but he builds homes as well, so he really knows what he's looking for. And Anthony's an easy person to get along with. I mean, I've dealt with some home inspectors that were absolutely atrocious and a complete nightmare because they did not listen to what we told them to do. So with that being said, make sure that you listen to your realtor, even if it's not us, even if you guys are in another state watching this, listen to what your realtor has to tell you. Okay, we're not working with these people because we're all in cahoots together. We're working with these people because they're qualified. We've been through the process with other folks, and they're not qualified as we have our people here. All right? So let me ask you this. What are some major red flags that come up during a home inspection?
Well, every house is so much different. One of the major things that I've been seeing a lot lately is grading issues on the exterior. You know, people don't keep up with the landscaping, and then there tends to be a negative pitch towards the foundation, which creates moisture and foundation structural cracks. You know, and that's a big issue.
Easily
So-
fixed, but a big issue once it's not
Easily,
fixed.
yeah.
Right? So grading
Absolutely.
is the dirt that sits up against your house. You really should have it pitched up so when the water runs down, it runs away from your house.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't. If you look at your house, it's pitched down, water is seeping into the cracks of your foundation and it's expanding, and water is a dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, if termites are found, what can be done? Because sometimes we'll get positive, you know, I mean, generally, there's a lot of times, I'd say maybe 50% we find termites in a house.
Yeah, maybe more than that.
Maybe more than that. So people generally tend to panic, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Relax.
Yeah,
Let him explain.
typically when we find termites, it doesn't go so far that we need major repairs, but we do need a treatment to control the situation so that they don't further eat the home and, you know, the wood, and it doesn't compromise the structure. So
Once it's treated, is there anything else to worry about?
yes. So once it's treated, a good pest company will give you a warranty that every year they'll come back to re-inspect, and for a couple extra dollars, they'll warranty you for a whole nother calendar year. I highly recommend doing that, especially if we find termites, because then it's on paper, and whoever buys your house 5 years, 10 years down the road is going to be concerned about that, especially if you didn't follow up with the warranty.
Okay. All right, why should I get a radon test done? What happens if there's radon? What's the mitigation for it? Is it to create, I mean, we've got people back to, oh my God, the house has radon. Relax. Everything can be fixed, anything can be fixed.
Absolutely. Let's start with what radon actually is. So radon is a radioactive gas that comes from uranium-containing rock and soil. Basically, it causes lung cancer at higher levels. And you can't smell it, taste it. There's no way to know that you have it in your house unless we do a specific test for it. So during the real estate process, we do this test. It takes a couple days, send it to the laboratory, and we get our results. If it's higher, we can install a mitigation system in the basement. And when I say we, my lab that I would refer to do it, I don't install mitigation. But it's very simple. They install a 3-inch pipe that looks like a waste drain into your foundation. From there, they bring the pipe up. There's a fan that directs the air from under your home to the exterior. And after it's installed, we retest to make sure the levels have dropped significantly.
So and it's not that expensive.
It's very basic.
$1,500, $2,000 for a fix on
Yeah,
that.
it's
They got to seal the cracks in your basement, make like a suction under your house, like a big vacuum.
exactly.
No big deal, and it runs constantly, okay? Here's some good questions. I had a couple who refused to get a waistline scope. They didn't want to pay the extra money to get a waistline scope. And what the waistline is where all your poo-poo and pee-pee leave the house and go out to the sewer system and are taken away to a sewage treatment plant. Okay, so why would you get it scoped? What happens if there's cracks in the line or the thing's decomposing?
Well, this is a big problem for a lot of people. So I offer this service when people call me for home inspections, and a lot of times people opt out of it. And I try to explain to them, you know, it's one of those things, out of sight, out of mind. You don't know what's going on unless we physically go in there with a camera and figure it out. Now, a lot of houses that have big trees or shrubs, bushes in the front yard, we tend to find roots that find their way into these pipes, and they cause issues. You know, when you have your housewarming party and all your friends and family come over after the first or second week that you move in your house and the toilet's flushing every 5 minutes, that's when you're going to find out that you have a sewer main collapse or roots or blockage. And for an extra couple $100, I mean, it's definitely worth the service, being that the sewer line's a good $10,000, $5,000 to $10,000 to repair or replace.
I have experienced a backed up sewer line, and it is not fun because it backs up usually into your basement, and you're pumping pee-pee and poo-poo, and your shower water and everything else that's waste coming from the human body back into your household, which will require cleanup, which is not fun. You'll be getting those boots out, your Tyvek suit, your mask on, you'll be cleaning your own poo, and that's not going to be it's not going to be a blast. All right, and then let's talk about tank sweeps. What's the difference between an underground oil tank and a tank inside? What's safe? What's not? Why do we do a tank sweep?
Okay, so if you look at a house and it has an above ground oil tank, and the house is, let's just say, 40, 50 years old, there's a good chance that there was a below ground oil tank prior to that above ground that stopped producing oil. What happens is they cut the lines, they leave the tank in the ground, they install an above ground tank, and the problem's solved. But guess what? That tank's still in the ground. And if it wasn't decommissioned properly and inspected by the township, it could be leaking. And if it leaks and you don't do an oil tank sweep, you could be in trouble because that's going to fall onto your hands once you acquire the property.
What have you heard or seen of leaks, and how devastating can they be?
Okay, so I do a lot of purchasing and building, and I've personally had issues where I've had tanks leak, and I can tell you from my own experience that it can cost a couple $1,000s, but it can also cost $100,000. And that's where it gets scary, because we don't know unless we physically do this tank sweep of the property and figure out if there's a tank there or not. Until it's dug up, we don't know. Is it leaking? Is it not leaking? So there's a lot of testing that we can do prior to that. They do take core samples of the ground and have them tested, but it's not always 100% because they can't get under the tank. They can only get around the sides of the tank when they do a core sample.
Okay.
So whenever there's a tank in the ground, my recommendation is have it removed before you purchase a property. Make sure there's no contamination. Get your NFA letter from the state and move forward. Because when you go to sell the property, these flags are going to come up. And this is expenses that could have been avoided by just spending a couple $100s on an inspection.
So when you guys are buying a home, you have to understand that cheap is going to be very expensive. You're going to buy a home, you're making an investment of a couple $100,000, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 800, 900, $1 million. It's not a time to begin to try to skimp and save money when you talk about inspecting things that could cost you $100,000. So for me, I practice what I preach. When I buy a house, if I don't know certain things about it, I am getting inspections on it. I'm not going to get stuck with somebody else's bill. I have seen it where somebody, the day 2 after they bought the house, the sewer line started backing up, and certainly they had to have somebody come out to an emergency job because you can't use the bathroom or waste lines. It was almost $10,000 for them to come out on an emergency job to dig up the street and tie back into the sewer line with the new PVC pipe that's put in. You got to understand these houses. Some houses are very old waste lines. You got to be careful of them. Doesn't mean they're not in good condition. That's why we have them scoped and inspected, right? So,
Can I just add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So even with new construction, that doesn't mean that the whole sewer line was replaced. So a lot of time people think, oh, the house was renovated, it's all new, or the house was just built, it's all new. That's not always the case. And people always think, like, I tell them, I'm not trying to take you for a ride. I'm sincerely trying to help you. And I can't explain to them enough sometimes how important it is to do these things.
Yeah, not a time to start being cheap with your money. I mean, if you're going to commit to buy a house, you have to commit to the expenses that come along with buying a house. It's a very expensive process, all right? Selling and buying a home is a very expensive process. We understand that, but it's not the time to be cheap. What do you think about having a home inspection before you sell a house?
Pre-listing inspections are excellent. They get you ready for the market. If you can make a couple of key repairs prior to people coming to view your house, you could probably get a contract faster. Because some people walk through, they bring their contractor, they bring somebody that's knowledgeable about a home, and sometimes these little red flags that you may not think is a big deal add up to be a significant cost.
Yeah.
And if you were able to just, repair some of these items beforehand, you make your property stand out that much more than your neighbor's property.
Okay, cool. I'm going to jump into some questions for myself that people wrote in. When is the best time to buy? When is the best time to sell? So when the best time to buy is, it really depends. If you're looking for a home for you and your family, it depends what your needs are. What time, So for me, I have needs. I have a 3rd child on the way. We need a bigger house. So it really doesn't matter what time it is. Now is the time for me to buy. Right? There's not a financial reasoning behind it. We need a house. That's what my needs are. So anytime, if you're going to buy a house, no matter if the market's high or low, you're going to ride the wave of the market going up, the market going down. You're going to hold on to it for years. Let's say you're in a house, you go, oh, we're going to stay here for 20 years. It doesn't matter what time you buy it, because later on, obviously you're going to have equity in your home. It'll be a sound investment. You'll have money. Your house will be worth money. And it's what you need at this time. Okay? When's the best time to sell? Really, right now is the best time to sell. But I must tell you this, we have a very hot market. There's a ton of buyers waiting to buy houses. I'm one of them. But when we come out to a listing appointment with you and I give a recommended price in your home, there's a reason that recommended prices are given. Most of the time, I just had this conversation with my parents recently about them selling their home. People always tend to believe, especially their own home, that it's worth more. Don't look at what the house is selling for down the street. You need to call a realtor with comparable properties, or one of us here will take care of that for you, to get an idea of what your house is worth. This is not a ploy for us to try to get you to sell your house cheaper. I always provide facts of why I'm coming up with these numbers on your home. Okay, so these are the facts, and I got to tell you, quite accurate. We usually get within 5,000 of what we estimate your house to be worth. Now, the name of the game is to price your house aggressively, and I mean, we sold houses in 2 days, 1 day, 3 days, and we've gotten 10, 15, 20,000 over asking. So there's a strategy. Then we've done the opposite. There was that recommendations weren't listened to, and then 60 days later, we ended up back to the same price we were where I originally recommended. So people just get very nervous about it. Remember, when we list your house for a certain price, it doesn't mean that we have to take that price, but we want to have foot traffic coming into the house. We want to keep the excitement alive in the house. If you're not showing your home, it's not selling. Overpricing your house is the one detrimental thing that will kill the sale of your home. There's nothing you can do about it, okay? And here's another one. Do I have to pay to use a realtor? That's the one killer that people think you have to, in order to get one of us to go out with you and work with you and help you find a home that it costs you money, it does not. It's actually free. How we're paid is in the listing agreement with the person who listed the house. Let's say Century 21 lists a house, we're Keller Williams, and you know, they have agreed to pay a commission of 5 or 6%. Well, that commission is split. Whether the listing agent sells it and collects the whole 5% or 6%, it really doesn't matter. They usually don't expect that to happen. So just have your own realtor. We get paid when you buy a home. You don't have to worry about paying us anything out of pocket. I've had a lot of people say to me as they were closing their home, like, oh, well, what do we owe you for commission? Well, you don't owe me anything. It's already written. The seller pays the commission. So on the flip side, when you're selling a home, you know there's a commission that you're going to have to pay. But on the buyer side, it's free. There's no sense in trying to go out and not using a market expert to be on your side to help you buy a home. It makes no sense to me when people are like, oh, we're going to just call the listing agent. Why not have somebody in your corner? We had a listing guy reach out to us, like, I'm going to use you guys because I know you guys have the house listed, there's more commission in it for you. I said, my friend, I appreciate you using us. He still stayed with us after this happened. I said, well, we have an offer of full cash, you are an FHA loan. I have to tell my sellers, although there's more money in the commission for us, I have to tell my sellers what the better deal is. And we didn't take his deal. Even though there was a lot more money involved for us personally, it didn't matter. It was the seller who was ultimately the person who was the primary focus in this. We had to take care of our seller. So he liked that so much that he stayed with us, and we've been representing him since on a buyer's side. All right? And we already talked, when should I start the process if I want to buy? We already talked about that months and months in advance. I had a couple of friends of mine call me 2 days ago. I actually put him in touch with Chuck. They're like, hey, we're thinking about buying like September, October. I'm like, perfect. This is the time now for you to start looking, okay? Why should you use your preferred lender, attorney, and home inspector? Like I said earlier, we use people that we trust. We've been in this industry for years. We all know each other. We all jive together. We have an attorney that works with Chuck, and he knows, has a good relationship with him. And that same attorney knows Anthony. And then everybody just works together to make it. You don't want miscommunication. We work with very highly efficient people. Anybody who knows any business that I own knows that I'm very efficient. I only work with the best of the best. That's what I'm sitting next to right now. So you have to know that. Right? Not everybody came into real estate. Your cousin Susan's friend, who's the part-time realtor who got her license last year, is not going to have things like this channel set up. They're going to go through, oh, did you have anybody for me? We have those people in place. You must know that. All right? And what repairs should I make to my house before I hit the market? That's my last question. And don't do anything until you have us come out and look, and we'll make a recommendation on what you repair. I've had people who have renovated their houses completely, spent $50,000 and only got $20,000 out of it. So don't lose 30 grand because you think it's the right thing to do. And stop watching HGTV. And it's not going to be your answers. Talk to a professional. That is edited television. All right. I just had somebody recently, another friend of mine, told me wanted me to start finding renovation properties for him. And he started getting involved with another realtor who didn't know what she was doing. She was a new realtor, a family member. And what he didn't realize was he would have to be a primary home. He'd have to live in that house for a year using the loan he was using and buying it the way he was buying it. And he said to me, I can't live there for a year. I go, why are you using somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about? You realize you have to live there for a year while you renovate it or after you renovate it. It has to be your primary residence. If not, it's a federal offense. So you must work with people who are in this industry that know what they're doing, all right? We know what we're doing. We're here. We have this whole group for you. So does anybody else have anything to contribute?
What repairs should I make before I put my house on the market?
Yeah.
I think safety is the most important thing. GFCI outlets where there's water, loose handrails on front steps, loose steps, decks that are deteriorated and need work. Safety things are definitely number one.
Yeah, and don't forget that the outside of the house, there's curb appeal to a house. When people pull up to a house, the first thing they see is that wow factor. There's so many variables that play into it. And we know that I've renovated houses. I own multiple houses. He's renovated houses. Chuck's been in the game for 65 years, I think. But, you have anything else to add?
Yeah. So there's a program out, and there's a few coming out now, but one in particular that we have, it's called the Smart Start program, for people that have nothing, no money, nothing down, and no money for closing costs, which when I first started hearing this, I was like, I don't get a lot of calls where I have nothing. But when I learned it, learned the product and got more knowledge about it, it's funny, I have like 2 or 3 going right now. So this Smart Start program works where you can get a 4% second mortgage, and it's 0% interest if you stay in the property for 5 years. There's no income limits. It is specific to a particular area, so it has to be in a smart growth area where they're trying to develop the area. But there's a website, I don't have it off the top of my head, but you could Google that Smart Start program, and it's great. So you get a seller concession, which is a way of financing your closing costs. With an FHA loan, you get up to 6%, and then you have a 4% second mortgage to cover your down payment. You could get in a house with no money whatsoever. It just has to be one of those Smart Start areas. So if you don't have any funds right now in savings, you could still get yourself in position if you do have stable income and stable credit.
If you want to know more about Smart Start, reach out to Chuck. Give you number 4. Give your number again, Chuck.
201-390-9565.
And if you get a question?
What about first-time homebuyer programs?
Good question. So the FHA has had the 3.5% down for a long time, but the conventional is very aggressive right now. They rolled out the Home Ready program and the Home Possible program. Both of them are very aggressive, 3% down. They want a piece, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that's conventional, they want a piece of that FHA business with a 3.5% down. This was rolled out before, and the penalties for the lower credit or down payment or loan amount were ridiculous. The mortgage insurance was ridiculous, and we didn't offer it. Now it's done the right way. They want the business, and we're using it often, not only on a first-time home buyer. You could do this 3% down program. So there are options, both FHA and conventional, for first-time home buyers.
Anything else? Any other questions? All right, so listen, just know, wrapping up, you're working with a real estate group that actually cares about their clients. We don't see numbers here. I don't care how many closings we have. Obviously, we can pay bills. We're in it because it's our career. But we truly do care. We had a closing of the day. It was just a wonderful thing to see these people get intimate touch. And you look back at my personal Facebook page, you'll see that I shared with them. It was a real nice moment when they were able to buy the house they wanted. But if you didn't have the right realtor giving you the right advice, they would not have that moment. They would not be a block away from his sister, and have that. Now you get the whole rest of your life to be close to a family member. And the question was, if you had somebody who wasn't, qualified and knew the market correctly, you're bringing some part-timer out. They're not going to do the right thing. They're not going to give you the right advice. Sometimes the right advice isn't easy to hear, but it's the right advice. So you need to work with people who are in this industry, who are closing homes, who are listing homes, who will help you out and give you the best advice. Maybe you don't want to hear the fact that the house was $385 and you had to put an offer in at $380. That's what she would take to get this thing off the market right now. Maybe you didn't like the fact that I told you, hey, look, the house is $340. It's been on a day of market. We have a house under contract right now. 1 day on the market. It's a crazy market. Put an offer in for $341. Let's get this thing shut down. Let's go. And that's it. But you know who has a home and who doesn't? You have a home with us. You'll get the home you want. And then you have other people, 10 other people who are looking to see that home that said, wait, what happened? Why didn't my realtor tell me what to do? I would have paid $341 for this house. We jump in, we crush it, we close it. Remember, for every $10,000 you borrow, it's about $50 a month. So you're going to play games for $50 a month. Are you going to, maybe instead of going out to eat one time, you have pizza? Or are you going to play games for $20,000, for $100 a month? What's $100 a month? Think about it. Think about your life and how to make it without $100 a month. So when we tell you these things, we educate you. This is not just a game for us to come out here and see how much money we can make. We want you to be happy, and that's the bottom line. When you sell your home, we'll get you the most we can get out of your house. I can't make your house $50,000 more expensive than it's actually worth. I wish I could. I have intention to get you every dollar out of your house I possibly can. So I think that's it. Do we have any other questions? You guys want to contribute anything else? All right, so thanks for tuning in today. We're going to close this thing up. If you need to get in touch with us, send us a message here on Facebook. You could reach out. We have other realtors that work on the team, like Jenna Condilis and Christina Spadafora. We will set you guys up whatever you need. If you're looking to sell a home, contact us. My cell phone, my personal cell is 732-261-3330. And give your information.
My phone number is 732-991-6779, and my email is anthony@aci-nj.com. So you can reach out to me with any questions or if you need anything.
Yeah, and I'm Dennis at thebenitogroup.com. Dennis at thebenitogroup.com, where you can search homes, thebenitogroup.com, and you can search homes in this whole area, and you don't have to worry about Zillow and Truly and all that crap that they say. But thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys get a lot out of it. We answered a lot of questions for some folks who are looking to come into the market. So thank you.